It started with the buzz of a chainsaw and ended with handcuffs in the middle of the night. If you'd have told me 6 months ago that something like this would happen on my quiet street in Willow Bend, I would have laughed and offered you a cold beer. Back then, my biggest problem was keeping the squirrels out of my tomato beds. These days, I've got motion sensor floodlights, locked gates, and an emergency contact saved for Officer Singh at the local precinct. The first time I met Nan-Lair, she had just moved in 3 houses down. Her smile was tight, the kind that looked like she was hiding a lemon seed behind her teeth. She pointed at my mailbox and told me it didn't meet HOA standards. I gave her a polite nod, said I'd look into it, and forgot about her 5 minutes later. That week, she filed complaints against 3 neighbors. One for a trash can left visible, one for a basketball hoop that had been there since the early 2000s, and one no-joke for wind chimes she claimed disturbed the natural harmony. I kept my head down. I keep my yard neat not because of HOA rules, but because I take pride in coming home to something that looks cared for. I mow on schedule, edge the lawn, repaint the shutters every spring. My backyard has a massive, century-old white oak tree that towers over the property strong. Beautiful, the kind of tree you build your childhood around. My father used to say, trees were the best neighbors. They don't ask to borrow tools, they don't throw loud parties, and they sure don't care about your politics. One Tuesday in April, I was on a Zoom call when I heard a low, mechanical hump of place. Intrusive. I thought maybe city workers were trimming trees nearby, but the sound grew louder. I apologized to my client, hit mute, and stepped outside. There she was, Neen, standing in my backyard with a gas chainsaw, cutting into the trunk of my oak like it was a roast turkey. "What the hell are you doing?" I shouted, stunned. She turned casually and said, "Oh, good morning, Miles. Just taking care of the tree issue." Tree issue? I looked at the inch-deep cut she'd already made and felt a white-hot fury rise in my chest. "That's my tree, on my property. You're trespassing with a weapon," I snapped. She actually laughed and told me that according to HOA bylaw 48B, any tree over 35 feet needed review for potential storm risk. "This one's at least 40, she said smugly. I told her she guessed wrong and that no such bylaw existed. Read the HOA manual cover to cover. Even if it did, you can just stroll into someone's yard and cut down their tree like Paul Bunyan in a jogging suit. Then she dropped the bombshell, claimed she was the new HOA president, said the election had been last week, and I'd know if I attended the meetings. That caught me off guard. I'd heard rumors she was sniffing around the landscaping committee, but president? That was news. I told her point-blanky then, if that were true, she'd still need permits, approval, and basic human decency, none of which she seemed to have. She huffed, set the chainsaw down, and told me to expect daily fines until the tree was removed. Then she turned and left, her heels clicking on the path like punctuation marks. I stared at that wounded tree and called my friend Logan, a property attorney who lived 2 streets over. He laughed in disbelief and told me to document everything, call the cops, install cameras, and take photos of the cut. That tree might be worth more than her house, he said. He wasn't kidding. The police showed up within an hour. Officer Singh and Officer Morales walked the yard with me, and Singh immediately recognized this as felony-level vandalism. Morales warned me she might escalate. That afternoon, a letter arrived in the mail on fake-looking HOA letterhead accusing me of violating a non-existent bylaw and fining me $500 plus $100 per day. It was signed by President Nan-Lair in a ridiculous, loopy cursive like a child's art project. I sent it to the real HOA president, Glenn, who called me back, furious. "She's not the president. Elections aren't until October," he said. Turns out Neen was on the landscaping committee and barely hanging on to that. She had apparently submitted a dozen outrageous proposals, including banning ornamental lawn frogs. I installed cameras that day. The best money could buy: infrared, motion tracking, night vision. My backyard started to look like a top-secret facility. Good thing too, because 5 days later, karma rolled in. A spring storm hit heavy winds, torrential rain. Around noon, power cut out. I got restless and drove around the block to check on neighbors. That's when I saw it. Nan's house, more specifically, the shattered remains of her roofs mashed in by a dead pine tree from her own yard. That thing had been rotting for years. I joined the small crowd of neighbors watching from the curb. Alina, her next-door neighbor, leaned over and whispered. She refused to remove it. Said it was part of the aesthetic. The irony punched me in the chest. She tried to cut down my healthy oak, but ignored the dying hazard 10 feet from her porch. Firefighters were on scene. No one was hurt, but when I turned to leave, Neen spotted me. In a bathrobe, looking like she'd just escaped a horror film, she stormed across the lawn. "This is your fault," she screamed. I blinked. "Excuse me?" She claimed I reported her tree to get revenge. I didn't even know she had a dead tree, but she wouldn't hear it. She ranted, accused me of harassment, intimidation, and conspiracy. Alina stepped in. "That's not true, and you know it. Miles lives across the street. His tree doesn't even face yours." Other neighbors nodded, muttering their support. Then Officer Singh showed up, probably for a downed power line, and Neen immediately turned her drama toward him, accusing me of orchestrating the tree's fall. Singh raised an eyebrow. "Ma'am, are you saying Mr. Prescott summoned a storm?" Even Neen had to pause at how ridiculous that sounded. She muttered something about retaliation and stomped back to her broken porch. Days later, Glenn told me the city cited her for multiple violations: safe tree, broken gutters, expired home repairs, and the kicker. The original complaints came from her. She'd reported every house, including her own, in an effort to push stricter enforcement. The city followed up and found most were nonsense except hers. Then things went quiet for a bit. Until one Sunday morning, there was a knock on my door. Officer sang again. "She came back," he said. "Last night with the chainsaw. My cameras caught it all." She scaled my fence at 2 a.m., cutting into the same tree under moonlight like some deranged lumberjack. A neighbor heard the noise and called it in. The officers caught her mid-slice. She was arrested, charged with felony destruction of property and trespassing. A city arborist later confirmed the damage was too deep. "The oak, my oak, had to come down. I won't lie," I cried. That tree had seen every dog I ever owned, every backyard barbecue, every lazy Sunday nap. Losing it felt like losing a member of the family, but the community stepped up. Alina organized a watch group. James from the HOA fast-tracked new security policies. Ms. Dunlap brought me peach cobbler and a handwritten recipe for growing blueberries. Then one morning, a black SUV pulled into my driveway. A man in a suit stepped out and introduced himself as Martin Lernon's ex-husband. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I've been hearing things from our kids. Didn't know it had gotten this bad." He didn't make excuses, just said she needed help, but that didn't make it right. Then he handed me a business card for a tree specialist who worked with legacy oaks, growing saplings from 300-year-old acorns. Martin had already arranged everything: removal, transplanting, restoration, and his dime. The trial was swift. With all the evidence, videos, reports, witness statements, Neen took a plea deal. Community service, mental health treatment, full restitution, and a court order to sell her house and leave Willow Bend permanently. 4 months later, we planted a new white oak, 15 years old, grown from a 300-year-old tree in upstate New York. We held a tree warming party. The neighborhood showed up with food. The kids made signs. Glenn gave a short speech. And me, I planted it with my own hands, patted the soil, whispered something only it could hear: to new beginnings, to roots deeper than resentment, to communities that don't just survive, but grow stronger. Now I want to ask you something. What would you have done in my place? Press charges, let karma work, or find another way to deal with someone like Neen? Let me know in the comments, because if I've learned one thing, it's this: the deeper the roots, the harder the wind has to blow to knock you down.